Pipe Network presents.
On this episode of Season 4, let's talk.
And I said, you know what? Let me just pick up the camera and just just shoot some photos. Maybe I'll just find something in along the way, and then I did. So I had my camera. My camera, by the way, my first camera was given by my mother. She was really fond of it at the first time. So it was, I think, the latest model back. No, no, not really the oldest model back then. And I said, "Can I borrow your cam?" And then I just tried to just point and click.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Rajiv Show, and I'm your host Rajiv Doreswamy. And this show aims to help reach out to those who are currently struggling in life and to remind you that life is indeed beautiful when you're inspired to make it your own. This episode is going to be fun because before I introduce the person that I'm going to talk to, I gotta say that if everybody noticed all my personal social media accounts, the person who gave that shot, it's actually several shots of that. I want to shout out to this guy before I even introduce him, Ian Viernes. You gotta listen to this conversation because this is gonna be intense. Now let me introduce Ian. Ian, pal, how you doing?
Hey, so I'm Ian. I don't even know. I'm a long-time friend of Rajiv. We go way back in University of Baguio since 2014. I think I met
2015.
you 2014 and 2015. Right, correct.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And it's been a really fun ride, right? So
true, it's true.
you've been the guy that I've been really in touch for many interesting conversations, and for those conversations we've gone through many walks of life. I guess we've been
True.
talking with things like spirituality, things like social dynamics and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it would be really fun. And thank you by the way for inviting me to this
Yeah.
podcasts.
I've always wanted to talk to you for a very, very long time because if some of you don't know, Ian is a phenomenal videographer and um,
Oh, come on. How do
photographer,
you?
and he's made my brand. I got to salute to this guy because if not for him, without that photograph, I would never have a brand, a photo of mine that is going to be saying a brand that I live on for a longer time. So let's get into the meat and bones of this conversation. Could you give a little bit of background about yourself aside from the things that I've given?
Yeah, so I'd love to. Thanks, but just to make a very good point to that picture. So, fun story, a little story before I introduce myself. That picture actually is taken by my iPhone, which I
True.
still have right now. And a story behind that is that I actually had an interesting situation there because I lost my camera back then, and trying to be how do you because I'm a communication student, and when I was in my third year, second year, I was doing many photo classes and
Yeah.
video classes. So I really badly need a tool for me to do those projects. So um interesting, I just resulted to just use my phone to just take the damn photo, because I know you've been really waiting for that
It's true.
photo
True.
session for a very very long time. So
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, that's it for the picture. So
Yeah.
again, my name is Ian. You can just check out the links, or social media links will be on the description, or you can just look and find me at my website, ianviernes.wixsite.com/vision. And there you can see more of my photographs, my projects, some of my links, social media links. So you can find me in Twitch. I stream there from Saturdays to Sundays, so that's weekends, because during the weekdays I'm currently working as video or audio editor for a US based real estate company. So I work a graveyard shift for the most of my time. And for the rest of the day, I just sleep. I do a productive sleep, which by the way is really important, especially in these times of pandemics wherein we're just isolated and stuff like that. So rest, you friends, and drink your water.
Yeah. All right. Um, and my first question that I normally ask my interviewees is, who are you in high school? If you and I were classmates, of course, as mentioned earlier, you and I were classmates in college. But this question is basically, who were you in high school? Were you the big guy with the
Mhm.
girls, or the guy at the books, in the library? Are you in the back of the class or in the front of the class? Who were you in high school?
That's a really interesting question. I've never been asked by that question. So, who am I in high school? I'm basically that emo kind of guy. If we're talking about like first year, what are we like talking about? Is it fourth year, like high school? Because by the year I change, and it's been really interesting to track those days. But for the most part, I'd say I'm the type of guy who is known, I guess, for some quite interesting stuff, I guess, for dancing, and for
Ooh,
having a bigger brother who always stands up in my side to defend me. So
yeah.
basically, I'm a very very scrawny guy. If you just see me, you can just see me. I'm just a really scrawny guy. So what more when I was when back then when I was in high school. So yeah, that was most of it. And for my most of my high school days, I got to be picked on since I'm very scrawny, and
Yeah.
I didn't really excel well on academics, and yeah, academics. So I tend to lean more of my energy and focus more of that in developing my character.
Hmm.
So when I say developing my character, I try to go to different kinds of, when you have those high school groups, and you know that there are, the cool kids, the rich
Hmm.
kids, they have the, just like what you were saying, you get to be labeled by statuses and stuff like that. So I'm
Yeah.
the kind of guy that's neutral, right? So I
Hmm.
can go with the cool guys, the lame guys, or like the geek guys. I can go with theater guys. I can go with, girls and stuff like that. So I could easily like I'm a chameleon, I guess. So I'm
Adaptive
really
chameleon.
versatile in that sense. Adaptive, correct, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and since I'm not really a very academic guy back then,
Hmm.
I tried to engage in many performing arts. So that includes also sports like
Hmm.
volleyball, basketball, tennis, table tennis. It's more of like a physical interaction, and
Yeah.
then by the weekends we're forced to go to Catholic school to learn more about the Christian traditions
Right.
and whatnot. So yeah, basically just a shy kid, I guess. I don't know.
That's interesting. You mentioned the word character, and it's interesting.
Right.
I want to open into a character. You've actually opened a lot of boxes, which I'll get back to those boxes. But the first box that you open is character, and I want to ask you the second question is, who is your greatest motivator and why?
Wow. Damn. It's just okay. I can do that. My greatest motivator would be my father.
Mm,
Definitely my father. Because for a very long time, of course, my my guy has been really a legend. He's
mm,
been a legend for many many things. Um he's been burnt. He's been a soldier. He's a lawyer. He's a provider. He's a defender. He's a driver. He's everything that I wanted to be. So
mm,
he's an engineer. He is an artist. He is a preacher. He's really most I'd say amazing in many ways, and for that I'm extremely eternally grateful for having him in my life. Yes,
mm,
and being the son of a great person. He's not really like a very rich person, but I'd say he's rich and wealthy in terms of like having connections.
mm,
So we develop relationships with different kinds of people because we think of them as assets, right? So
Mm.
not really thinking of like how we use how we use them as a way for us to get money, but more of like we use them to support us, we
Mm.
use them to find us more opportunities. So it's really hard if you're out there and trying to make opportunities for yourself. So
Mm.
it's really wise for you to develop connections with different kinds of people. Just maybe a short background with who my father is. So
Mm.
he was born in Mindanao. So he was one of those freedom fighters, I guess, someone like a guerrilla type of group. And then he grew up to being a teenager, so that was really young.
Mm.
Doing all of those crazy stuff, and then he went to Manila to find work, and then from there he asked most or all of his relatives to find him work to go abroad.
Mm.
And then as young as I think around 22, he
Mm.
was able to go and travel to Oman, where we were born.
Mm.
So Oman is a really peaceful Gulf or Arab country. And,
Mm.
from there, he took my mother like 2 years after he settled down, and then he was able to fund a plane ticket for our family to grow and develop, in that country. And then from there, he's a mechanic. So I think he worked for sales before, and then he became a mechanic. And then
Mm.
from there, he got promoted to lead mechanic, or what we call, um, what do you call that again? It's just something like a lead mechanic thing. Oh, foreman, right? Foreman,
Yeah.
right? So being a foreman of a garage is really hard. So you're like a leadership. There's a leadership behind it, and aside from being a father, being a breadwinner, being a leader is a different kind of role as well. So it's really interesting because I know I'm really young. I can vividly remember how I enjoyed his workmates before, because we all live in the same cottage, or like we our houses were like in one, like, how do you say, in one apartment but different rooms, right?
Mm.
So we're like basically living with one another, but then we just have our own separate rooms. And then for the longest time we grew up to be, having our own little Filipino community in the middle of an Arab country.
Mm.
So it was really peaceful. We grew up and developed our own, I don't know, so physical
Culture.
skills, or social culture, correct, by having to practice, I don't know, social, more on going to school and trying to do physical stuff like running and biking, I guess. And then from there I really took off from my father. When actually, this is what a really funny story, because when I was talking to my father, when I was young, he used to call me as this is my first production. So my first production ever in my life was actually really memorable, because my first role was not actually an assistant. I was more of a light engineer. I know most of 90s kids would truly relate to this kind of, I don't know if people have experienced this kind of feeling with their mechanic dad, or
Yeah.
their mechanic, anything that works with cars and stuff like that. So I was the one who held up that light during the night. So I held that light up for him to see the inner parts of the machine, or like the car that he's trying to fix. So like of course we live and breathe with cars. So from cars we get money when he fixes the stuff. So he just needed a little support, or like someone to hang out with, because when you're working in Oman, and it's really a deserted place, so mostly you're working alone. You only don't have any interaction unless you call someone, right? So everyone's just on their own, and it's really kind of lonely. So he was always calling for me, asking me questions like, what do you want to be when you grow up and stuff like that. And I became just the light man and stuff like that. So I've been also the coffee. How do you say it? I used to make him coffee when I was
Mm.
young, and that's, I think, part of being a production assistant, I guess. So that's how I grew up with him. And then as time passes by, he just became this father figure wherein he resonated more of like, who do I want to be when I grow up, so like, it's not really having to experience the same kind of events, like, say, for example, he made us feel the excitement of having to go fishing, to go camping, to go hiking, to go adventure. We're more of like a venturing family. Like, we used to go many places with different activities, and that's really, really fun. If you try to imagine that and picture that, for those who are listening, it's just that it's really amazing when you have that kind of childhood wherein you're, especially now, if you're trying to compare it with kids growing up right now in the digital age, wherein everyone's just leaned into computer or technology and not having the experience. I know it's really generic to even talk about this, and
Yeah.
it's really funny because there are many different kinds of perspective in this. So for my perspective, it's not just merely about having to play with other kids, like the usual one, like having to play patentero or like taya-tayaan and stuff like that, or langit lupa. But in
Hide and
my
seek.
case, it's more of like yeah, hide and seek, correct. So
Yeah.
uh in my case, we didn't really have more interaction with different kids. We have interaction within family first before we went out of the community or the circles of life. So, and then from there, I experienced, hiking, traveling deserted lands, and venturing unknown places. And from there, I got a drive for me to look for something that is unknown. And this, just like podcasting, just like knowing different kinds of stories from different people, really, fascinated me in any ways possible. So yeah.
That's pretty powerful. That's pretty
Yeah.
powerful. Before we get into the next question, do you want to leave a little bit of shout out to Dad if he's tuning into this episode by any chance?
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll let him know. Actually, I have some friends who are waiting for this to go out. So I told them I've been chatting with different kinds of, groups of mine. And I tell them, I'm just going to chill out and have a chat with this dear friend that I have before in college. And yeah, they're really looking forward to this one. I think this is going to be one hell of a... Actually, they were asking me if this is going to be live so they can watch. So they're really that excited for this conversation. But yeah, that's it.
So my next question is, of course, we as I mentioned in the previous two questions, is more in the past. Now we're gonna transition into the present. So this is a
Awesome.
bit philosophical. You could take this the way however you can. Is that in this point in your life, fresh graduate, you and I are also in the same batch, FYI. What made you who
Yeah,
you
yeah.
are? What made you who you are?
Ooh, awesome. Cool. So just like much of having, the guy that I was talking about, my father and stuff like that. So I asked myself that same question, like, how do you want it to be when you grow up? And when you do grow up, would you be, where do you want it to be? Like, kind of like that question. I know it's quite a draft, but anyway, in the present, who I am right now is a more of a consequential decision by my past, of course. Like,
True.
if you decided to be whatever, it's really gonna lead up to where you are right now. And I'm really, the past has really a good connection to everything of this, of course. And
True.
for most of that, the reason for most of who I am today is because, one, because of my family. That's a really big thing.
Mm.
Second would be my own personal growth. So family could teach you, right? But
Yeah.
it's still, so since you have a teacher, right? So when you have a teacher, you need to have a student. So I am the student of that
Mm.
teacher. So being the student, you have to find your own drive, right? So you yourself know that you needed that kind of teaching or knowledge or experience,
Mm.
but then you still need another big part of it, which is having to be thirsty, be hungry for knowledge, be in pursuit of something that is unknown. So what made me, what made me
Mm.
is more of that same pattern of having to strive for more, for greatness, for something not really fame, but more of something that is challenging. One teacher told me, or my mentor before in high school,
Mm.
before we were about to leave for college, once told me, like or once told the batch, like if you're trying to look or find ways for you to like decide for college and what course will you take, because that's going to define your life for the next few years, right? So
Yes.
that's a very, very crucial stage for you to decide. So just remember this: no no easy thing will teach you. So better find the hardest thing that you
Yeah.
could ever think of and take it. So and I tried to like remember that as I entered college, and I thought of what am I bad at? What's the worst thing that I need, right?
Mm.
So the worst thing would be you know pursuing math, right? So I'm really,
Yeah.
as I told a while ago, I'm not an academic guy, so I didn't really excel
Yeah.
um in terms of academics. So and I said, you know what? I'll just take engineering because that's the hardest thing. And funny enough, that whole part of the college thing really molded me in who I am right now. So three back in 2016,
Mm.
that was my first year in college. So I was in SLU 2016, or was it 2016? No, 2013.
20,
2013.
yeah, I met you
2013.
2017. So it's kind of
Yeah,
weird,
yeah,
huh?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a wrong timeline.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it was 2013. That's 7 years from now. And 7 years ago, I took up bachelor of science major
Mm.
in mechanical engineering, because I was so inspired by my father. So I
Yeah.
have a guidance right there.
Yeah.
But then my father and my mother didn't really made a firm decision for me to choose one specific course,
Mm.
just like most of the Filipino kids right now who are
Yeah.
suffering in their choices because of their parents' choices.
Yeah.
And that's I've been one of those lucky bastards who get to choose whatever I want, and I get to be supported by whatever I want. So I didn't really take that for granted. I guess the problem with it is that I didn't really think of it as much as I think it would affect my life. So what I did was, so I did pursue the hardest thing, which is math, and that's engineering too. That's extra
Yeah.
difficult. So after 3 years after that year, so that was 2016,
Yeah.
when I finally had a severe depression. I suffered severe depression, not clinically,
Mm.
but I feel like I was in that stage because I really didn't find any kind of motivation to go out. I was so afraid of having any social interaction.
Mm.
And also I became manipulative to my parents. So what happened was they thought that I was still going to college in the same school, in the same university, and the same course, but actually I just stopped. And it's really funny that when I tried to reach that kind of point of life wherein I said I'm not gonna experience those because that's dumb, you know.
Yeah.
That's dumb. That's really dumb. Why would you go to a bar scene and try to buy your friends, right? So that's really dumb.
Yeah.
And I never realized that it's going to be it's going to hard to hit me as hard as it should, but back then. So so yeah, that whole kind of thing happened. And after that, I tried to pick myself up, and then you know what? This whole thing is just really boring. It's
Yeah.
becoming regular for me to get drunk every night and come home and just be feel more emptiness and sadness after all. And
Mm.
I said, you know what? Let me just pick up the camera and just just shoot some photos. Maybe I'll just find something along the way. And then I did. So I had my camera. My camera, by the way, my first camera was given by my mother.
Yeah.
She was really fond of it at the first time.
Mm.
So it was, I think, the latest model back. No, no, not really. The oldest model back then. And I said, "Can I borrow your cam?" And then I just tried to just point and click, and from there I tried to develop this sense of, "Oh, that's cool!" Like
Mm.
that's really that my attention got really directed to a specific point, and I wasn't really thinking of like, "Am I sad? Am I happy?" No, I was just fascinated. I was really happy. I was in that specific idea of like thinking of what is important or having direction,
Mm.
right? Just like when you take a photo, right? This is really the important aspect or fascinating point of having to take a photo or show a photo. So the story, of course, is the main or the king of why the photo has an impact, but more of that is the elements. So the
Mm.
elements would be having the direction or the focus, right? So
Mm.
what's your focus when you're taking a photo? So your focus, if it's your subject is like a person, you have to blend in or make that subject be the prominent subject or element in that picture. So I know this is going to be functional or technical, but
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that when you look at a photo, you don't think of what are you going to do next, right? So what you're feeling, what were your desires and stuff like that. You're not thinking
Mm.
about anything. You're just thinking about that photo, and that's
Mm.
really fascinating. It has a deeper power to it because you get to be focused into one thing, especially
Mm.
if it's that photo that encaptured you like really there's a deeper meaning to that picture.
Mm.
So I had the same feeling when I had my friends taken a photo of my friend's friend. So
Mm.
it was a candid photo, and she was, I think, I really liked her back in high school, and she took that he took that photo out of random causes, and I really felt like there is so much happiness in just that picture because of her smile. And by that, I didn't really think of like my exam tomorrow or like what am I going to do next and stuff like that. So I guess that's just it. I mean, I'm sorry if I've been talking for quite some time now, but basically, after that whole phase of depression stage and drinking and stuff like that,
Mm.
I just picked up the camera and then asked my friends to maybe I could shoot for them and then cover some, you know, dance covers and some friends who wanted to excel as well in the music industry. And then I
Yeah.
said, you know what, maybe I can be your middleman. Maybe I can be your production side. So
Yeah.
let me take a video of what you're doing, and then maybe we could just share it online. You will not pay me. I just wanted to try, experience, just like what you're trying to do right now. You don't have
Mm.
an experience. I don't have an experience. Let's experience together. So
Mm.
there was this kind of idea of having to share this same idea of growth and
Mm.
developing a skill. So it was just from one project it turned into another and then to another and then to another. It's just a snowball. So after that,
Mm.
you know, I think I have sufficient portfolio. So I think maybe I should, venture up YouTube, and then from YouTube maybe I could go to studio, and then I did that. I spent like hours, thousands of hours for me to understand the inner workings of a camera and how do we create compositions that would make or resonate to a person's life. So after that, I applied for a studio, and then I said,
Mm.
"Hey, are you looking for a photographer and stuff like that? So maybe I can help, maybe assistant and stuff like that." And then they said, "Oh, actually, we're just a starting company. Maybe you can join us." And I said, "Cool. Then right from there, I got to go with them, shoot weddings and birthday parties and stuff like that. And then from there, they taught me various things. Like they became my first teacher in the field of photography and stuff like that. And yeah, from there on, it's just a bigger snowball, I guess, of
Mm.
having the passion to drive with, mm, capture memories. From there, I
Yeah.
think I need to go to school and finish my degree. And
Mm.
then I went to University of Baguio, and then I said maybe I should enroll something media,
Mm.
since that's mostly photographs and video, right? So then
Yeah.
I said, let's just do it, and then I did it, and then I got enrolled, and 4 years after I graduated, and now I'm a audio editor
Yeah.
and a real estate company. Yeah.
Fascinating. I love it. I
Right.
love the story. Uh, I don't know what to do now. I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean, it's
I
funny.
mean,
Yeah. You were saying. You were
I
saying.
could ask you the same questions, like what you like. I know this is your podcast and you wanted
Yeah.
to feature me, but actually, I've been really wondering, like, what are your thoughts as well? Like, how did you? I know you have told many of your stories in your site, and by the way,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry if I've been
Yeah.
a really bad friend to not check you up and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
just
No
like
worries.
medical, we have our own stuff
Yeah.
like grind and stuff like that. So,
Mm.
but don't worry, I'll try my best to like check up on your content as well for the next few days, and
Yeah.
maybe I could understand more of your story, like your history and stuff like that, because we had this similar conversation before,
Yeah.
but not quite as deeper, I guess. So
Yeah. It was
maybe if
not
I were to
recorded.
ask you a question.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly, it wasn't recorded. So if
Yeah.
I was to I were to ask you a question, like if you had maybe, oh wait, what was the last question? Oh right, so who who were you today? Was it
No, I mean,
how
I
did
was
you
waiting for
become
your
you?
question. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you
Right,
answered
right,
that.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that would exactly. So I wanted to ping or like shoot back the same question, like how did you be you? How
How
did you become you right now? Right.
um to me, the journey of the life is spectacular. It's there are a lot of details that I've missed out in, of course, the previous seasons that I've gone through, and in the context of identity philosophy, it was always a searching thing. I've um, as some of you know, those who are tuning in, is that I'm an artist and I'm a musician, and the musician part is a generic thing because my dad, my mom's musician. And for me, ever since I was young, I've always had this sense of identity. I've yearning for an identity, but at some point, I've led to realize that it's um, with all the things that I've gone through, it's that you get to discover and unpeel the layers of life by going through something. Whether you're going in with full sight or blind sight, you're still getting to where you are. And I've reached a point where I see something new, and I've always wanted to try that because coming from the artist and the musician side, I've always looked outside. I wanted to always try something new. And that's when the podcasting thing came. And I think I've mentioned this also in my previous episode that after being a fresh graduate of music, I really want to give up the artistic side of life in pursuing something that is not generic, and I want to start that. And I'm starting the projects. The projects are taking off. The Rajiv show is taking off, and other future ventures that will you'll be seeing soon will take off, and I'm starting to enjoy it. Uh, but not to say that I've disconnected and disvowed all my connections with artists and the artistic side and sing. Uh, I'm still I'm still out of habit. I'm still somewhat. a perfectionist in terms of what I do. And for the things that I do in terms of what has happened to me lately, um, I've been working a lot on the marketing side, and I'm starting to enjoy it. I mean, making content, getting content out on social media, I'm starting to enjoy that. And with the podcast community, of course, I'm starting to enjoy that, and to make that feel more appealing and authentic to me is more like a satisfying thing for me now, because I've taken the leap outside of where I am grown into, and hopefully from there on out, um, build and keep building and keep growing, as you mentioned, character. So what made me who I am today is I just love what I do, and I'm always searching for the next best thing. I'm never settling down. So I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, dude, that's a very powerful answer. Actually, funny enough, like recently I've been talking to many different kinds of people as well, like people from Netherlands and US and Switzerland and Europe, parts of like Berlin,
Yeah.
Paris and stuff like that. So something resonated with me is that when you say you're always going for the next best thing, right?
Yeah.
So despite all of the adversities, like all of the problems that we are we're struggling right now, like the pandemic and trying to cope up with, modules and stuff like that,
Yeah.
these are the things, the problems are these are the things that would make or break a person, right? So if
Hmm.
you give up right now, you're not going to certainly find the best version of yourself, right? So
Yeah.
thinking of like relationships, right? So maybe that's a good question for you as well. My question would be like, somehow, how with your relationships, are you looking for a partner for a long time, and that kind of vibe? But before that, before you answer that, let me just share something that a quote
Yeah.
from a friend
Yeah.
recently who just told me. So he said, I got emotionally and physically abused by my own family.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm proud of?
Yeah.
I'm proud that every insult that I received, I was able to call on God and ask God to bless them and take care of them, and
Yeah.
prayed that He would set me free from all the pain I have inside of me. So like that that is so powerful. Like when we go through hardship, we get to know more of ourselves.
Hmm.
We see the part of us whereas we need to work on,
Hmm.
right? So the pain that he physically and emotionally took, he didn't replicate, or he didn't um reflected that same pain to the same people. What he did was he offered that pain.
Hmm.
He offered the pain to something divine,
Hmm.
right? So it's really interesting, because normally what would people do is replicate the same thing. So for example, if you hurt me, I'll hurt you the same way you hurt me, or
Yeah.
even worse, right?
Yeah.
But then, right, these are the people, right, that really inspires me. So it's really fascinating, and it's just one person. So imagine the different kinds of people that your friends, that
Yeah.
thousands of your friends have different kinds of perspective on, like, how did they overcome adversity and stuff like that. So yeah.
Interesting. Um, Before I answer your question, we're gonna have a little bit of short break, and folks, we'll
Awesome.
be right back. This episode is sponsored by Dulce House, the online shop for your guilty pleasure. Use the promo code PIPE to buy chocolate chip cookies, Oreo cheesecake cookies, and other baking goodies. The promo code is PIPE. Go to the link in the description to find out more.
If you want to learn something new or useless about the world around you, why don't you try listening to the Banyu podcast Reflushed on Spotify, Anchor, or any podcast app that you use?